I remember that day like it was yesterday, the kind of day where everything feels normal until it doesn't. My name is Emily, and I'm 30 years old, working as a social worker in this big city that's always buzzing with people who need help. I spend my days at the community center talking to families down on their luck, helping them find resources for food or housing, and sometimes just listening when they have no one else. It's not glamorous, but it feels right. I live in a small apartment on the outskirts, sharing it with my roommate Sarah to keep the rent manageable. We don't have much, but it's home. And after long shifts where I might skip lunch to squeeze in one more client meeting, I crash on the couch with a cup of tea, feeling like I've made a difference. That afternoon, I was walking back from work, my bag heavy with case files, thinking about the family anniversary party coming up. It was for my parents' 40th wedding anniversary, and I'd been looking forward to it for weeks. I even splurged on a new dress from the thrift store. Nothing fancy, but it made me feel put together. My parents, Robert and Linda, own a chain of small retail stores, the kind that sell home goods to middle-class folks. They've built it up over the years, and they're all about appearances, nice cars, big house in the suburbs, hosting events that show off their success. My older brother, Mark, runs the operations side, and my sister, Jenna, handles marketing. They're the golden kids, always fitting into that world of business deals and networking. I unlocked the apartment door, kicked off my shoes, and dropped my bag on the kitchen table. Sarah wasn't home yet, so the place was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I pulled out my phone to check if there were any updates about the party, maybe a group text about the menu or something. Instead, it rang right then, my mom's number flashing on the screen. I smiled as I answered, figuring she wanted to confirm if I was bringing anything. "Hello, Mom." "Hey. How's the party planning going?" I said, pouring myself some water from the tap. There was a pause on the other end, and I could hear my dad in the background, his voice low like they were discussing something. "Emily, we need to talk," Mom finally said, her tone all business, not the warm one she uses when she's excited. "Sure. What's up?" I leaned against the counter, taking a sip, my mind already jumping to party details. "It's about the anniversary celebration," she continued. "Your father and I have been thinking, and, well, we've decided it's best if you don't come." I nearly choked on the water. "What? Why? Did I do something wrong?" "No, it's not that," Dad chimed in, grabbing the phone. His voice was gruff, like when he's closing a deal. "Look, Emily, this party is for important people, clients, partners, folks who can help the business grow. Your job as a social worker. It's noble and all, but it's not the image we want to project. You're just not qualified to be there. It might embarrass us if people ask what you do, and it's all about helping the poor." I stood there frozen, the glass slipping a bit in my hand. "Embarrass you? Dad, I'm your daughter. This is a family event. Family, yes, but it's also networking," Mom added, her words sharp. "We've invited some high-profile guests, and we don't want any awkward conversations. Jenna and Mark understand this. Their careers fit right in. Yours doesn't. We've talked it over, and it's final." I felt my face heat up, a mix of anger and hurt bubbling inside. "So, because I chose to help people instead of chase money, I'm unqualified. That's what you're saying. Don't make this dramatic." "Emily," Dad sighed, "it's just one party. You'll get over it." I paced the kitchen now, my free hand gripping the edge of the table. "Get over it. You've excluded me from family stuff before, like not inviting me to those business dinners. But this, your anniversary, that's crossing a line I never thought you would. We have to think about the bigger picture," Mom said firmly. "Our reputation matters. The business supports all of us, even if you don't see it that way." "Supports all of you? You mean," I shot back, my voice rising, "I've funded my own life since college scholarships, part-time jobs while you handed everything to Mark and Jenna. And now this. It's like I'm not even part of the family unless I fit your mold." There was silence. Then Dad cleared his throat. "We're not changing our minds. Goodbye, Emily." The line went dead, and I stared at the phone, my heart pounding. I sank into a chair, replaying the words in my head. Unqualified, embarrassed. It stung deep, like all those family gatherings where they joke about my charity work suddenly weren't jokes anymore. I'd endured the sidelong glances, the comments about how I could do better, but banning me from their anniversary, that was the boundary I never imagined they'd cross. It was like they saw me as an outsider, someone to hide away. Tears pricked my eyes as I thought back to all the times I'd bitten my tongue, paying my own way through school while they bought cars for my siblings. Smiling through holidays where my job was the punchline, I'd stayed silent to keep the peace. But this was betrayal. Pure and simple. I wiped my face, standing up slowly. Sarah walked in just then, carrying groceries, her eyebrows shooting up when she saw me. "Hey, you okay?" "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, setting the bags down. I forced a weak smile, but inside, something shifted. Family stuff. They don't want me at the anniversary party. Said my job makes me unqualified. Her mouth dropped open. "That's awful. What did you say?" I argued, but they hung up. I replied, helping her unpack to keep my hands busy. "It's like they value status more than me." Sarah hugged me quickly. "That's their problem, not yours. You're doing good work. Don't let them get to you." But as we put away the food, I couldn't shake it. The pain of rejection hit hard, making me feel isolated in my own family. I'd always assumed blood meant unconditional support, but this call shattered that. It was the exact moment, their blunt words over the phone, that woke me up to how little they valued me. A quiet fire started burning inside, whispering that I deserved better than their conditional love. The days after that phone call blurred together in a fog of hurt and confusion. I went through the motions at work, meeting with single moms, fighting for custody, helping an elderly man apply for food stamps. But every spare second, my mind drifted back to my parents' words, "Unqualified, embarrass us." I kept replaying the conversation while I sorted donation boxes or typed up reports, my fingers hitting the keys harder than necessary. How could the same people who raised me decide I wasn't good enough for their big celebration? I had paid my own tuition, worked 2 part-time jobs through college, and still graduated with honors, all while they bragged about funding Mark's MBA and Jenna's fancy marketing courses. I'd stayed quiet for years, swallowing every little dig about my bleeding heart job, telling myself family was family. Now the silence felt like a trap I'd built myself. Sarah noticed right away that same evening. After I finally told her the full story, she set 2 mugs of chamomile tea on our tiny kitchen table and sat across from me, her eyes soft but serious. You can't let them do this to you," she said, sliding 1 mug closer. "You're out there every day, changing lives. They sell throw pillows and call it an empire." I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, staring at the steam. "I know, but it's not just the party. It's the way they said it, like I'm some stranger they're screening at the door. I've been biting my tongue my whole life so I wouldn't rock the boat." Sarah leaned forward. "Then maybe it's time to rock it. What are you going to do?" I shrugged, but inside the question burned. "I don't know yet. Part of me wants to show up anyway, but that would just prove their point that I don't belong. The other part wants to disappear so I never have to hear that tone again." We sat there sipping tea until the mugs went cold. I went to bed early, but sleep didn't come easy. I lay staring at the ceiling cracks, remembering every holiday where Mom had seated me at the kids' table so the grown-ups could talk business. Every time Dad introduced me as our daughter who likes helping people, like it was a cute hobby instead of my career. The betrayal sat heavy in my chest, making the small apartment feel even smaller. The next morning, I decided I needed answers. I couldn't just sit with the pain. I texted Jenna, my sister, the one who always acted like she was doing me a favor by staying in touch, and asked if we could meet for coffee after work. She agreed, but only at the upscale cafe near her office, the kind with $20 lattes. When I walked in, she was already there, scrolling her phone in a crisp white blouse, her hair perfectly blown out. "Hey, sis," she said, barely looking up as I sat down. "You sounded upset in your text. Everything okay?" I ordered a plain black coffee to keep it cheap and leaned across the table. "Not really. Mom and Dad called yesterday. They said I'm not invited to the anniversary party because my job would embarrass them." Jenna's eyebrows lifted, but she didn't look surprised. She stirred her oat milk latte slowly. Yeah, they mentioned something about the guest list being tight. Tight, I repeated, my voice sharper than I planned. They called me unqualified, Jenna, like I'm not family. Did you know they were planning this? She sighed and finally met my eyes. Look, you know how they are. Reputation is everything to them right now. The business is expanding. New investors. Blah, blah. They're worried one wrong impression could cost them. I pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat from last month. So this email you forwarded to me about the party venue, did they tell you to leave me off the list on purpose? Jenna glanced around like someone might overhear, then lowered her voice. They sent a separate email to Mark and me, said to keep the invite list curated. I figured you'd find out eventually. My stomach twisted. Show me. She hesitated, but after a second, she pulled up her inbox and turned the screen toward me. There it was, in black and white. Mom's email to both of them. Emily's work doesn't align with the image we're projecting. Best if she skips. We'll make it up to her later. My hands shook as I took a screenshot. Evidence. Cold. Clear proof they had planned my exclusion like a business decision. You saved that? I asked, sliding the phone back. Jenna shrugged. I save everything. You never know when you'll need it. I sat back, the cafe noise fading around me. The isolation hit harder now. I was the only one on the outside looking in. Even my own sister had known and said nothing, but seeing those words also lit something else inside me. They weren't just hurtful, they were deliberate. And if they could treat me like this, maybe I didn't owe them my silence anymore. I left the cafe with the screenshot burning a hole in my pocket and headed straight to the community center. My supervisor, Mrs. Alvarez, was in the middle of a staff meeting when I walked in. Normally I'd wait, but today I didn't. Emily, you're early, she said, smiling. Everything all right? I took a deep breath. Actually, I want to take on more. The citywide foster care fundraiser next month. Can I lead the outreach team? I have ideas for bigger donors, more media coverage. Mrs. Alvarez blinked, surprised. That's ambitious. You sure? It means evening events, networking with foundation board members. I'm sure, I said, my voice steady for the first time in days. I'm ready to step out. She studied me for a second, then nodded. All right, let's talk after the meeting. I like the fire I'm seeing. The rest of the afternoon flew by in a blur of planning calls and donor lists. I stayed late, reaching out to 3 local foundations I'd never contacted before, introducing myself with a confidence I didn't know I had. One director actually replied within minutes. We've heard great things about your work with at-risk families. Let's schedule a lunch. My heart raced as I typed back a professional reply. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for my family's approval. I was building something on my own terms. That night, back in the apartment, Sarah, and I ordered cheap Thai food and ate it on the couch. I showed her the screenshot from Jenna. Wow, she said, mouth full of pad see. That's cold. What are you going to do with it? I set my plate down and looked at the photo again. Nothing yet, but I'm not hiding anymore. I'm going to keep showing up for the work I love, keep connecting with people who actually value what I do. If they think I'm unqualified, I'll just have to prove them wrong in ways they can't ignore. Sarah grinned and clinked her water glass against mine. That's my girl. I smiled back, but inside the quiet determination was growing. The pain of being undervalued still ached. The isolation still lingered, but something had shifted. I wasn't just enduring anymore. I was moving slowly, carefully toward a version of myself my family had never bothered to see, and that felt like the first real step out of their shadow. It had been a couple of weeks since that awful phone call, and I couldn't shake the anger bubbling inside me every time I thought about it. I kept going to work, throwing myself into the foster care fundraiser planning, making calls to potential donors during my lunch breaks, and staying late to organize volunteer shifts. Sarah tried to get me to talk about it more, but I brushed her off most days, saying I was fine when really I felt like a storm was building. The screenshot from Jenna's email sat in my phone like a loaded gun, and I hadn't decided yet if I wanted to use it. Part of me wanted to let it go, to just focus on my own life. But the other part knew I had to face them or it'd eat me alive. Then Mom texted me out of the blue, inviting me to a family dinner at their house that weekend. She made it sound casual, like nothing had happened, talking about how Dad had grilled some steaks and Jenna was bringing dessert. I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the reply button while I sat on the couch after a long day. Sarah walked in from her shift at the coffee shop, kicking off her shoes and flopping down next to me. "What's that face for?" she asked, peering at my screen. "Family dinner." After what they did, I nodded slowly, setting the phone down. "Yeah. I think I need to say my piece, or I'll regret it." She raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. "Just don't let them walk all over you again. You've got that fire now, use it." The drive to my parents' house that Saturday felt longer than usual. The suburbs rolling by with their neat lawns and big garages. Their place was a 2-story colonial with a wraparound porch, the kind that screams success to anyone driving past. I parked my old Honda next to Mark's shiny SUV and Jenna's convertible, feeling that familiar twinge of not quite fitting in. As I walked up the steps, I could smell the barbecue smoke from the backyard, and voices carried through the open windows laughing. Clinking glasses, I knocked once and let myself in. Like always, Mom was in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove, her apron tied neatly over her dress. She looked up and smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Emily, you made it. Come on in. Dinner's almost ready." Dad was at the counter, pouring wine, and he gave me a nod. "Good to see you. Kid, grab a seat." Mark and Jenna were already at the table, scrolling their phones. Mark looked up first. "Hey." Long time. We all sat down after a bit, plates loaded with steak, potatoes, and salad. The conversation started light, Mom asking about my roommate, Dad talking about a new store location. I poked at my food, waiting for the right moment, my heart pounding a little faster with each bite. Finally, when there was a lull, I set my fork down and looked straight at Mom and Dad. "So, about the anniversary party, you really meant what you said on the phone, that I'm not invited because my job embarrasses you." The table went quiet. Mom glanced at Dad, then back at me. "Emily, this isn't the time. We're having a nice dinner." "No, it is the time," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You called me unqualified, like I'm not good enough to be around your important guests. I want to know why you'd say that to your own daughter." Dad sighed and leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Look, we didn't mean it like that, but yeah. The party's for business folks. Your work with the social cases, it's great for you, but it doesn't mix well. People might ask questions, and we need to keep things professional." Jenna shifted in her seat. It's not personal. It's just how things are, not personal," I repeated, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. "Excluding me from your 40th anniversary because I help people instead of sell stuff. That's as personal as it gets." Mark jumped in, his tone casual, like he was explaining something simple. "Come on, social workers don't belong at events like that. High society. Deals being made, your stories about poor families would kill the vibe." I stared at him, my hands clenching under the table. "Kill the vibe, Mark. I work with real people every day. Families like the ones we used to be before Dad's business took off. And now you're saying I don't belong." Mom reached over, trying to pat my hand, but I pulled away. "Honey, we're proud of you in our way, but the business supports everyone. We can't risk our reputation." "Your reputation," I said, standing up now because I couldn't sit still. "That's all you care about, not me. Your daughter who's been there through everything. I funded my own college, never asked for handouts like you gave them." I nodded at Mark and Jenna, "And this is how you repay me, banning me from family events." Dad's face hardened. "Watch your tone, Emily. We've helped you plenty over the years, a little here and there, when you needed it." "A little," I laughed, but it came out bitter. "That emergency fund you send sometimes, fine, if that's what you call support. But don't act like you've carried me. I've built my life on my own." He stood up too, pointing a finger at me. "That's it. If you're going to throw this in our faces, maybe we should stop that help altogether." No more checks, no more anything. See how you do without our safety net. The words hit like a slap. And for a second, I felt that old vulnerability creep in, the fear of scraping by even more than I already did. But I pushed it down, remembering the email screenshot and the witness from work who'd overheard similar comments from Dad at a community event once. I didn't pull them out yet. I wasn't ready to burn everything. Cut me off then, I said, my voice shaking but strong. If that's what it takes for you to see me as unqualified, go ahead. But know this, you're the ones embarrassing the family with your shallow games. Jenna tried to mediate, standing between us. Everyone, calm down, Em. You're overreacting. It's just one party. Overreacting. I turned to her. You knew about the email, Jenna. You forwarded it to me by accident, but I saw the one where they planned to leave me out. How's that for family? Her eyes widened. You screenshotted that. That's low. No. Excluding your sister is low. I shot back. All for power and reputation. That's your motivation, looking good while stepping on me. Mom started crying softly, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. This is tearing us apart. Why can't you understand? I grabbed my coat from the chair, the room feeling too small now. Because I do understand. You've shown me exactly where I stand, and it's not with you anymore. As I stormed toward the door, Dad called after me. Don't come back until you apologize. I didn't look back, slamming the door behind me and getting into my car. My hands trembled on the wheel as I drove away, tears blurring the streetlight. The humiliation burned fresh. Their words echoing, social workers don't belong, cut off financially. It was a peak of hurt, exposing how little they valued me. But I held on to that evidence in my phone, knowing it could silence them later if I needed it. The backlash left me raw, isolated in the night, but it also fueled the fire. I wasn't done fighting back. The drive home from my parents' house felt endless. The streetlights blurring through the tears. I couldn't hold back anymore. I gripped the steering wheel tight, my knuckles white, replaying the whole dinner in my head, the way Dad's face turned red when he threatened to cut me off, Mom's fake tears, Jenna and Mark just sitting there like it was no big deal. I pulled into the parking lot of our apartment building, the engine ticking as it cooled, and sat there for a minute, wiping my face with the sleeve of my jacket. Sarah's car was already there, lights on in the window, and I knew she'd be waiting up, probably with ice cream or something to cheer me up. But right then, I felt so undervalued, like everything I'd worked for meant nothing to them. I grabbed my bag and headed up the stairs, each step heavier than the last. When I opened the door, Sarah was on the couch, watching some reality show with the volume low. She looked up and paused it right away. You look wrecked. What happened? She asked, patting the spot next to her. I dropped my keys on the table and sank down, kicking off my shoes. It was a disaster. I confronted them about the party, and it turned into this huge fight. Dad said social workers don't belong in high society, and then he cut me off financially. No more help, nothing. Sarah's eyes widened. He did what? That's messed up. You've barely taken anything from them anyway. I nodded, pulling my knees up to my chest. I know, but it still hurts. It's like they see me as a failure because I didn't join the family business. And Jenna knew about the exclusion email all along. She even defended them. She got up and went to the kitchen, coming back with 2 glasses of water. Here, drink this. You need to hydrate after all that drama. I took a sip, staring at the floor. Thanks. I just feel so alone right now, like I'm fighting this battle by myself. And they're all on the other side, protecting their precious reputation. Sarah sat closer and put an arm around me. You're not alone. You've got me and your work friends. Remember that time at the community center when you helped that family get housing? They still send you cards. That's real value. I managed a small smile, but the isolation weighed on me. Yeah, but my own family. I thought blood meant something. Now it's like I'm invisible unless I fit their mold. We talked for a while longer, her trying to lift my spirit, but eventually I headed to bed, the apartment quiet except for the distant hum of traffic outside. Sleep didn't come easy. That night, I tossed and turned, thinking about how vulnerable I was without that tiny safety net from them. What if my car broke down, or I got sick and couldn't work? My daily routine already stretched me thin. Up at 6 for a quick breakfast, then the bus to the center. Hours of client meetings, skipping lunch sometimes to fit everyone in. Then home late, exhausted, no fancy dinners or weekends off like my siblings had. The next morning, I dragged myself out of bed, the low point hitting hard as I made coffee in our cramped kitchen. Sarah was already gone for her early shift, leaving a note. "You've got this. Call if you need." I appreciated it. But staring at the bills piled on the table, rent, utilities, that student loan payment made everything feel heavier. I skipped my usual yogurt and just grabbed an apple, heading out to catch the bus. The ride was bumpy, crowded with people going to their jobs, and I zoned out, watching the city pass by, feeling like I was stuck in this loop of endurance. At the community center, the day started like any other. I clocked in and went straight to my desk, piled high with case files. "Mrs. Alvarez waved me over before I could even sit down. "Emily, got a minute?" she said, her voice upbeat as always. "Sure," I replied, following her to her office. It was small but cozy, with posters of success stories on the walls. She closed the door and smiled. "I've been watching you these past weeks. That foster care fundraiser you're leading, the donor calls, the outreach, it's impressive. We've already hit our goal early because of your push." I blinked, surprised. "Really? I mean, thanks. I've just been trying to stay busy." "Mrs. Alvarez leaned forward. "It's more than that. The board noticed too. We're restructuring, and we want you as president of the foundation, full-time, better pay, leading all our charity initiatives." "What do you say?" My mouth dropped open. "President, me. But I've only been here a few years." She laughed. "And you've done more in that time than most. Your passion show, plus, with the gala coming up, the big one where we network with billionaires, you'd be perfect to host it." The gala? I'd heard whispers about it. The city's most prestigious event for charities, but never thought I'd be involved like that. Yes, I'd love to." We shook hands, and she handed me some paperwork. "Great. Start next week. In the meantime, keep up the momentum." I walked out of her office, feeling a spark, like the low was lifting just a bit. Back at my desk, I dove into work with new energy, calling a potential donor who'd emailed back, setting up meetings. One was with a foundation board member, Mr. Thompson, who ran a big tech firm. "Thanks for reaching out. Emily," he said over the phone, "I've seen your campaigns. Let's meet next week to discuss sponsorship for the gala." "Sounds perfect," I replied, jotting it down. "I'll send over the details." Hanging up, I felt a shift. This promotion wasn't just a job, it was security. A way to build my own safety net without relying on my family. I stayed late that day, planning the fundraiser's final push, emailing colleagues for updates. One reply came from a volunteer who'd witnessed my dad's dismissive comment at a past event. "Hey, Emily, remember that guy who said charity work was for suckers? Glad you're proving him wrong." I saved that email, adding it to my folder with the screenshot from Jenna, evidence building, even if I didn't know for what yet. It motivated me, this quiet rise in the shadows. That evening, back home, Sarah was cooking pasta when I walked in. The smell hit me, and I realized how hungry I was after skipping meals again. "Guess what?" I said, hanging up my coat. She turned from the stove. "You look happier." Spill. "I got promoted president of the foundation. Better pay, leading the big gala." Sarah squealed and hugged me, sauce spoon still in hand. "That's amazing. See, your family's loss is everyone's gain." We ate dinner laughing about it. But later, as I washed dishes, the low point lingered a little. I still felt alone in some ways, undervalued by the people who should care most. But this comeback, it was mine. No more vulnerability from their whims. I was building strength, step by step, and mentions of the gala in those emails hinted at something bigger coming. My motivation now, safety and self-respect. Pure and simple. For the first time in weeks, I went to bed with a plan forming, that quiet fire growing stronger. A few months had passed since that explosive family dinner, and I'd thrown myself fully into my new role as president of the charity foundation. The promotion had changed everything better. Pay meant I could finally afford a few small comforts, like a reliable used car instead of the bus. And I even treated Sarah to dinner out once in a while. My days were packed now, Mornings reviewing grant applications, afternoons meeting with donors, and evenings prepping for events like the big annual Gala, where we'd raise funds for community programs while rubbing shoulders with the city's elite. I live for those moments, seeing real impact from my work, but the sting from my family's rejection still lingered in quiet times, like when I'd scroll through social media and see their posts about business successes. One afternoon, I was in my office at the foundation, a cozy space with windows overlooking the park, going through the VIP ticket requests for the upcoming gala. It was the event of the year: billionaires, CEOs, philanthropists, all gathering to network and donate. We'd already sold out general admission, but VIP spots were reserved for big contributors or special invites. My assistant, Carla, knocked on the door and poked her head in, holding a stack of papers. "Emily, you've got to see this," she said, her eyes wide as she handed me a form. Just came in an application for 4 VIP tickets. The names: Robert, Linda, Mark, and Jenna. Your last name matches. Family. I took the paper, my stomach dropping as I scanned it. There they were, my parents and siblings, requesting spots with a hefty donation attached enough to look generous, but not break their bank. The motivation jumped out. In the notes section, they mentioned seeking business partnerships with attendees. I set the form down slowly, feeling that old fire flicker back to life. "Yeah, that's them," I replied, keeping my voice even. "My family, we don't get along great these days." Carla leaned against the door frame. "Want me to approve it? The donation's solid." I shook my head. "Hold off. Let me check something first." After she left, I pulled up the foundation's database on my computer, searching their names. Sure enough, records showed they'd tried to buy tickets online first but got flagged for some reason, maybe because the system cross-checked donor histories, and theirs was spotty, no major contributions before, just small ones years ago. I dug deeper, calling up an old colleague who'd worked with local businesses. "Hey, Tom, it's Emily from the foundation," I said when he picked up. "Quick question. Have you heard anything about my family's retail chain lately? Any buzz?" Tom chuckled on the line. "Emily, funny you ask. Word is they're in a slump, lost a couple big suppliers. Sales down. I saw your dad at a networking event last week, name dropping like crazy, saying he had connections to charity bigwigs, trying to schmooze his way into deals, I guess." "Name dropping who?" I asked, grabbing a notepad. "You." "Actually," Tom replied, bragged about his daughter running a foundation, said it gave them an in for events like your gala. I thanked him and hung up, staring at the notes. So that's their game, using my name behind my back after cutting me out. The betrayal hit fresh, but this time I had power. I saved the call log as evidence, adding it to my folder with the email screenshot and that witness statement from before. That evening, I met Sarah for coffee at our usual spot near the apartment, the one with outdoor tables where we could people watch. She stirred her latte as I filled her in on the ticket request. "They're scheming to get into the gala now," she said, shaking her head. "After everything, what's their angle?" "Business is tanking," I explained, sipping my tea. "They need to network with billionaires there to save it. Power and reputation, that's always been their motivation. And get this, they've been dropping my name to look connected." Sarah set her cup down hard. "That's shady. You going to block them?" "Not yet," I said, leaning in. "I want to investigate more, see how far they'll go." Over the next few days, I kept tabs quietly. I had Carla monitor any follow-up emails or calls about their application. Sure enough, one came in from Mark, an email pushing for approval, attaching a recommendation letter from a minor business associate. I read it aloud to myself in the office. "We highly recommend and the inclusion of this esteemed family, known for their community contributions." I snorted. Community contributions? They barely donated before. Then a witness tip sealed it. One of our board members, Mrs. Patel, called me during lunch. She'd been at a Chamber of Commerce meeting where my mom had cornered her. "Emily, your mother approached me yesterday," Mrs. Patel said over the phone, pushed hard for gala ticket. "Said her daughter was president and would vouch for them. Even implied we'd get favorable business if we let them in." I gripped the phone tighter. "She said that like a bribe, not outright, but close. Mrs. Patel replied, I told her applications go through channels. Thought you should know. Thanks, I said. Can you email me a summary of the conversation for records? She agreed, and minutes later, the email popped up clear evidence of their shady tactics, name-dropping me without permission, hinting at quid pro quo. I printed it and added it to my file. Now 3 solid pieces, the application notes, Tom's call log, and this witness account. Intensity built inside me as I planned my next move. I couldn't just deny them outright, not yet. Instead, I started planting counter-evidence subtly. I drafted an anonymous email from a concerned donor to the foundation's general inbox, highlighting potential conflicts with attendees who valued integrity over business hustles. I sent it from a burner account, careful not to trace back. Then came the subtle reversals. I had Carla send them a polite but firm response to their application. We're reviewing your request, but due to high demand, VAP spots require verified alignment with our character criteria. I knew that would sting, echoing their unqualified line back at them. Sure enough, Dad called my personal phone that afternoon, the first contact since the dinner fight. I let it ring twice before answering, keeping my tone professional. Emily, what's this about criteria? He barked without hello. We sent the donation. Approve the tickets. I paced my office, looking out the window. Dad, it's not that simple. The foundation has standards. We check backgrounds. We're your family, he said, his voice rising. You owe us this. After all we've done. I stopped pacing. Over you. You cut me off. Remember, said I didn't belong. Now you need my event to save your business. He paused, then lowered his voice. Business is tough right now. A few connections at that gala could turn it around for all of us. Not for me, I replied. You've made that clear. Mom jumped on the line speakerphone. I guess. Emily, please, we're desperate. Mark lost a major client last month. Help us out. Their desperation hung in the air, but I felt no pity. I'll think about it, I said, hanging up before they could push more. That call escalated things, the humiliation shifting back to them as they begged. I followed up with another anonymous warning, this time a note to their business email. Heard about your gala push. Foundations value character over cash. Tread carefully. Sarah and I talked it over that night while making dinner in the apartment, chopping vegetables side by side. They're squirming now, she said, grinning as she diced onions. Good. Let them feel what you did. I nodded, stirring the pot. It's building. They think they can use me, but I'm turning it around. Get you around. One more push, and they'll see the reversal coming. As the week went on, their attempts ramped up a follow-up call from Jenna, pleading sweetly, even offering to make up for the party snub. I recorded it discreetly, adding to my leverage. The intensity rose with each contact. Their shady moves exposed bit by bit. I was no longer the isolated one. I had control, planting seeds that would lead to their downfall at the gala door. The quiet fire inside burned brighter, ready for the showdown. The night of the gala finally arrived, and I stood at the entrance of the grand ballroom in the city's fanciest hotel, the lights sparkling off crystal chandeliers and the air filled with the hum of elegant conversations. I wore a sleek black gown that I'd borrowed from a colleague, my hair pulled back in a simple updo, and I held a clipboard with the guest list, feeling the weight of my position as president of the foundation. Security guards flanked the doors, and volunteers buzzed around checking names, while billionaires and philanthropists streamed in, shaking hands and posing for photos. I'd spent the last week finalizing everything, the silent auction items, the keynote speakers, the donation goals, and now, with my evidence folder tucked in my bag nearby, I waited for the moment I'd been building toward. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Sarah. You've got this. Make them regret it. I smiled a little, slipping it back, and scanned the arriving crowd. That's when I saw them, my family, stepping out of a hired limo, all dressed to impress. Dad in a tuxedo that looked rented, Mom in a glittering red dress with too many jewels, Mark adjusting his tie nervously, and Jenna in a short cocktail number, clutching a designer purse. They approached the entrance with forced smile, like they belonged there. and I felt a surge of that old pain, but now mixed with resolve. The head security guard, Mike, nodded at me as they got closer. Everything good, Emily? Yeah. Mike, I said quietly. Keep an eye on this group. Might need you soon. Dad reached the velvet rope first, flashing what he probably thought was a charming grin at the volunteer checking names. Robert and family IP tickets. We should be on the list. The volunteer glanced at her tablet, then looked up at me with a subtle head shake. I stepped forward, positioning myself right in front of them, my clipboard held like a shield. Actually, you're not, I said, my voice calm and clear over the background music. Drifting from inside, their faces froze. Mom's eyes widened first. Emily, what are you doing here? I'm the president of the foundation hosting this gala, I replied, meeting her gaze steadily. And as president, I review all VIP requests personally. Mark snorted, stepping up beside Dad. Come on, Em, we sent the donation. Approve us already. This is ridiculous. I flipped a page on my clipboard. Though I didn't need to, I knew every detail by heart. Ridiculous. Like how you called me unqualified for your anniversary party because my job embarrassed you. Jenna shifted uncomfortably, glancing around at the other guests who were starting to notice. Emily, not here. Let's talk inside. No, I said, lowering my voice but keeping it firm. We're talking now. Your application didn't meet our criteria. Specifically, the character criteria. Dad's face turned red, just like at that family dinner. Character. What the hell does that mean? We donated plenty. That's what these things are about. Money for access. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I'd prepared, holding it so they could see the screen but not grab it. Money isn't everything. We look at past behaviors too, like this email where you plan to exclude me from the party to protect your image. Mom gasped, her hand going to her chest. How did you get that? From Jenna, I said, nodding at my sister, who looked away. She showed it to me herself. And then there's this witness statement from a chamber meeting where you tried to bribe a board member for tickets, name-dropping me like I owed you. Mrs. Patel's email summary was right there, clear as day. Dad lunged a bit, trying to see better, but Mike stepped in closer, his hand up. Easy there, Mike said. No trouble. Mark crossed his arms, his voice rising. This is bullshit. Emily, you're just bitter about the party. Let us in. We need those connections. Business is rough right now. I felt the intensity peak inside me. The humiliation they'd caused flipping back on them in front of all these people. Bitter. You cut me off financially. Said I didn't belong in high society. Now look at you, begging for entry to my event. Jenna tried to pull Mom back, whispering, Mom, let's go. She's serious, but Mom shook her off, tears starting in her eyes. Emily, please, we're family. Don't do this publicly. We were wrong. Okay, just let us in, and we'll make it right. I shook my head slowly. You had months to make it right. Instead, you schemed to use my name to get ahead, hinted at deals if we approved you. That's not character, that's manipulation. Dad pointed a finger at me, his voice loud enough that a few guests turned. You think you're better than us now? Running some charity. We built everything you stand on. No, I shot back, my heart pounding, but my words steady. You built walls to keep me out. And now, those walls are keeping you out. Your past actions belittling my work, excluding me for reputation, show exactly why you don't meet our standards. I nodded at Mike, who signaled 2 other guards. They moved in, gently but firmly guiding my family back toward the limo. Ma'am, sire, you'll need to leave, Mike said politely. This is a private event. Mark resisted a little, shrugging off a guard's hand. Emily, you'll regret this. We're your blood. I stood tall, watching them get escorted away, the betrayal fully revealed in their desperate faces. Blood doesn't mean you get to use people. You've shown your true colors, power over family, reputation over respect. Mom called out as they reached the curb. Emily, wait. We're sorry. Please. But I turned away, signaling the volunteer to let the next guest through. The raw dialogue hung in the air, their protest silenced by the guard's firm presence. As the limo pulled away, I felt the reversal complete the rejection they'd thrown at me, now theirs. Karma hitting hard in front of the world they craved inside. The gala continued smoothly, donors praising the setup, and I mingled with billionaires who actually valued the work. One even pulled me aside. Heard about that scene at the door? Handled it well. Integrity matters here. I nodded, thanking him, and as the night went on, the high intensity of the showdown eased into triumph. My evidence, those emails, witness accounts had been my leverage, turning their counterattack into my silence of their pleas. The message sank in deep. Character wins over status, and I'd flipped the script on their shallow world. The gala wrapped up around midnight, with the last of the donors shaking hands and promising follow-up checks for our programs. I stood near the stage, watching the staff clear tables and pack away the auction items, feeling a quiet buzz of satisfaction that I hadn't known in months. My phone had been vibrating all night with congratulatory texts from colleagues and new contacts, but I ignored the ones from my family. They'd blown it up right after the showdown at the entrance. A mix of angry voicemails and pleading messages, I slipped into the back office to change out of my gown, pulling on comfortable jeans and a sweater, and grabbed my bag with that evidence folder still inside, now feeling like a trophy instead of a weapon. As I walked out to my car in the hotel parking lot, Carla caught up with me, her heels clicking on the pavement. "Emily, that was incredible tonight. We raised over $1 million. Your speech sealed it." And handling that family drama at the door? Boss move. I unlocked my door and tossed my bag in the passenger seat. "Thanks, Carla. It wasn't easy, but it had to be done. They crossed lines they shouldn't have." She nodded, hugging her clipboard. "Well, the board's thrilled. Mr. Thompson, the tech billionaire, wants a meeting next week. Says he admires how you run things with integrity." I smiled, starting the engine. "Set it up. I'll be in early tomorrow to go over the numbers." Driving home through the quiet city streets, the adrenaline faded, and I let myself reflect on how far I'd come. Thriving as president meant more than the title. It was respect from people who saw my value, security in a salary that let me breathe easy, and a network of supportive folks who'd become like family. No more skipping meals or worrying about bills. I could even plan a small vacation someday. But the real win was the personal fulfillment, knowing my work helped real people, not just chase status. Sarah was waiting up when I got back to the apartment, the living room light on and a pot of tea brewing. She jumped up from the couch as I came in, wrapping me in a hug before I could even set my keys down. "Tell me everything," she said, pulling me to sit. "Did they show what happened?" I poured us both tea and leaned back, recounting the entrance scene, their shocked faces, the raw arguments, how I laid out the evidence from the emails and witness statements. "They begged, Sarah. Mom even said they were sorry, but it was too late. Security escorted them out, and that was it." Her eyes widened as she sipped. "Damn. That's justice. How do you feel now?" "Free," I replied, staring into my cup. All that pain, the humiliation from their rejection, the isolation, they made me feel it's turning into something stronger. I don't need their approval anymore. We talked late into the night, laughing about how their desperation had backfired, and I finally crashed, sleeping better than I had in ages. The next morning, I woke to my phone ringing. "Mrs. Alvarez from the foundation." I answered while making coffee, the sunlight streaming through the kitchen window. "Emily, check the news," she said, excitement in her voice. "That scene last night, it leaked somehow, probably a guest filmed it. Your family's business is trending for all the wrong reasons." I grabbed my laptop and pulled up a local business site. There it was, headlines about the retail chain's owners getting denied at the gala, with quotes from attendees calling them pushy opportunists. Comments flooded in, people sharing stories of shady dealings, and stock photos of Dad looking red-faced. I scrolled through, seeing reports of clients pulling out, suppliers hesitating on renewals. Business losses are hitting them hard. I said to Mrs. Alvarez, "Tarnished reputation, exactly what they feared for themselves." She chuckled. "And you're the hero of the story. Donations are pouring in this morning. Keep it up." Hanging up, I felt no guilt, just a sense of balance. Their motivation had always been power and reputation, stepping on me to protect it. And now it was crumbling because of their own actions. A few days later, the fallout escalated. Mark called first, his voice tense when I picked up after letting it ring a bit. We need to talk, he said. The business is tanking, lost 2 major clients because of that video. People are saying we're unethical. I stood in my office at the foundation, looking out at the park where families picnicked. What do you want me to do about it? Make a statement, he pleaded. Say it was a misunderstanding. Family stuff, not business. I laughed softly. No. Mark, you all made your choices, excluding me, belittling my work. Now face the consequences. He paused, then got angry. You're enjoying this, aren't you? After we cut you off. Enjoying. No, I replied. But it's fair, sus. You thought I was unqualified. Now your circle sees you the same way. Jenna texted next, a long message about how isolated they felt, their social invites drying up, friends distancing themselves. Please, we're sorry. Come over. Let's fix this. I replied simply, too late. Focus on your reputation now. Then came the forced apology attempt. A week after the gala, I got home to find them all waiting outside my apartment building, Dad pacing, Mom holding a bakery box like a peace offering, Mark and Jenna looking awkward. Emily. Dad started as I approached, his gruff tone softer than usual. We drove over. Can we come up? Talk. I stopped a few feet away, arms crossed. Here is fine. What do you want? Mom stepped forward, tears in her eyes again. We're so sorry. Honey, we were wrong to exclude you. To say those things. The business is suffering partners backing out. Our circle, whispering. We see now how much we hurt you. Jenna nodded. Yeah, we miss you. Let's put it behind us. I looked at each of them, remembering the pains they'd caused, the rejection that isolated me, the undervaluation of my sacrifices, the betrayal that crossed every boundary. You miss the connections I could give you now. I said, not me. Your apology is because you're losing, not because you care. Dad cleared his throat. That's not fair. We're family. Help us rebuild. No, I said firmly. You've faced isolation from your precious circle, business losses from your tarnished rep. That's the consequence. I reject your apology. It's not genuine. Mark threw up his hand, so that's it. You're done with us. I nodded, walking past them to the door. Yeah, I'm thriving without you. New networks, respect, fulfillment. Goodbye. They stood there, stunned as I went inside, not looking back. Sarah met me at the door, having watched from the window. You okay? She asked, locking it behind me. Better than okay, I replied, hugging her. It's over. Justice served. In the weeks that followed, I narrated my days with a new lightness, leading foundation meetings, networking with supportive allies, even starting a mentorship program for young social workers. The family's fallout continued. More business dips, their attempts to spin the story failing as witnesses came forward with old stories of their manipulations. They ended up selling parts of the chain to stay afloat, isolated in their suburb bubble, while I built a life full of purpose. Looking back, from that painful rejection to this empowerment, it all taught me and anyone watching that true worth comes from character, not status. Karma catches up, and I've come out stronger, happier, surrounded by people who value the real me